Hey guys, Darcy here from the Tonal Persuasion Method for Sales. Very honoured to be joined by Darren Mitchell. Darren, welcome.
Thanks, Darcy.
Yeah.
I like the word honoured.
Yeah, honoured. So I like to help my guests feel very special. So that's the.
It's me that needs to be honoured, mate.
Thanks, I appreciate
in such illustrious company.
That's it. So I wanted to myself and Darren, for those of you watching that haven't met Darren and I connected. What would it be, Darren? About 4 years ago, I would say.
At least, I think.
Maybe
a bit longer.
Years ago. Yeah, and we connected through our respective coaching journeys. And Darren is someone that I would love to share to the community because Darren has been in sales from a number of different industries and he's seen it evolve over a number of different years and just avenues. There's a lot you've got to add, Darren. So how about you go by introducing yourself and what's your expertise? Shamelessly self-promote. We were talking about the call. Like, okay to shamelessly self-promote.
My expertise. Well, where do I start? So, first of all, does Zoom have a limit in terms of how long we can talk?
No, you're all good.
Because as an introvert, I can talk a lot. So my background is I spent 20 plus years in corporate, business to business, and I went from a telemarketer calling businesses and residential at a company called Optus many, many years ago. Back in the days when, and most of the people probably on the call would maybe not remember that when you first made a call with Optus, you just had to do a +1 in front of the number. Mm-hmm. That would generate a new account for you. So my first foray into sales was calling residential customers and small businesses and simply saying g'day. And at that time, they hated Telstra. And back then it was called telecom. And so sales was a really, really easy gig back in the day.
Yeah.
So I did that for about 12 months and then moved into business-to-business sales as a direct sales executive within Optus. And the reason I saw that is I saw these guys actually playing golf. And I saw them driving nice cars and they tended to have long lunches. So I'm thinking, maybe there's something in that. Because here I am working my butt off, and these guys are enjoying, driving BMWs and Mercedes Benzes. Little did I know that was all an illusion, right?
Yeah.
It was the creation of the illusion of success that they thought would help them add credibility to their marketplace. But there was something in it that I thought, you know what, there's some good salespeople that I wanted to affiliate with. So I linked myself with a couple of good salespeople who didn't happen to play a lot of golf and who didn't happen to have a lot of long lunches. And I just got a sense of what they did. And what I found was that, yes, they sold a lot of products. Yes, they sold a lot of services, but they did it in a way that was based purely on relationships. And they actually developed a lot of credibility up front. And only when, and it's probably along the lines of what you do now in tonal persuasion, it's not leading with the product or leading with the service, but leading with themselves and building credibility and then finding out what actually is the challenge or the problem that this organization or this particular group has, and only then looking at what can I potentially help solve this problem with.
Yeah.
And so I thought there's got to be something in that. Plus, some of them were making some decent coin. So I made the switch into that, and for the next 5 years, I worked my butt off to go from a junior account executive up into a senior account executive. And then once I got to that, I thought, I'm pretty good at sales, but I love this people element. So what I found as I made the transition up through the ranks in selling, I had some really good mentors, but I also found that some people who were also starting out were coming to me, asking me for advice, guidance, what to do, what not to do. So I found myself pseudo coaching, but back then I didn't have a clue what coaching was.
Yeah.
I just thought I was helping people and just sharing stuff that I knew. And it wasn't a case of I'm going to protect everything, because if I shared stuff, people sometimes think, well, if I share things, does that mean that if I give something to somebody else, it means that I've now got something that doesn't differentiate me? I actually learned very quickly that, you know what, the more I can share, the more I can leverage myself, the better I'll become at influencing others and the more successful they'll become.
That has been one of the most astounding questions that we are often asked as mentors and coaches, I think, because we share a lot. I know you do, Darren. You're a big content marketer on social media, as am I. And the question often comes of, how are you at all scared that you'll give so much away that you got nothing left to give? Or it's like, no, that's not the mindset. This isn't how it works. This isn't why we share content.
It's not. And I was really lucky and fortunate that I had some really good mentors that taught me that really early on. So it started to instill in me a belief that, you know, if I keep giving, at some point it's going to come back.
Yeah.
It may not necessarily come back from the direct person I'm giving to, but know that because I'm putting stuff out, it will come back in some way, shape or form, and I'll always be taken care of. So that helped me start forming, I guess, the leadership philosophy. And when it got to the stage where I thought I'd achieved everything I wanted to achieve in selling, I found I had more of a passion for the leadership aspect of sales.
Yes.
Because I'd been doing a lot of mentoring, I thought, you know what? I reckon I can add more value helping the sales team get better and helping them become more effective, not only as a sales executive, but actually helping them become better in front of their customers and helping their customers become better as a business. And I'll take it one step further, helping our customers deal with their customers. So you're actually adding a mentoring element and then adding value to the third person. And that's where it became really exciting.
Yeah.
So you just touched on something before around leadership and if I give, what will that mean for me? One of the things that I've learnt, and I've espoused this when I run workshops and around leadership, I talk about this a lot. I ask the group, particularly leaders, and I say, well, what is the only reason for being a leader? And what do you think the answer is? Mostly.
Oh, you're putting me on the spot here. The only reason for being a leader, I would suggest, is I think most people would go with the answer to get results.
Correct.
Yeah.
Most people would, right? And this is where we can differentiate ourselves from a leadership point of view. Yes, we're there to get results. That's a given. That's literally, to use the old cliche, it's the ticket to the dance, the seat at the table, all those other sort of cliches. But really, when it comes down to it, the only reason that you're a leader is to create other leaders. So in a sales context, and this is where a lot of organizations fall flat, and this is where a lot of people tend to leave because there's no succession planning in place. As a sales leader, my role was to make myself redundant.
Nice. Very Maxwellian.
It is very Maxwellian, right? And he's one of my key influences. You can probably tell.
Yeah.
As is Simon Sinek and a few others. But when I got that, actually what it meant was there was all this pressure that all of a sudden had been lifted off. And versus me trying to impress my directors, my executive directors, the board, et cetera, that we're doing a good job, yes, still focusing on getting the results. When I started to place my attention completely on the team and identifying people within the team who could actually develop some leadership capabilities so that we could then develop this level of independence, not independence in terms they don't need me, but independent thinking, then it made my job a lot easier.
Yeah, it's not about you anymore.
It's not about me anymore. So all of a sudden, I didn't have people coming to me hoping that I would then solve their problems, which is another thing I can talk about in my first transition into leadership, which might help. But it was how I could then help them think better to then get the results they're looking for, but knowing that I was there to support them, but not to interfere. So as a sales executive, I remember going out to a number of calls with my sales manager and my director. And sometimes what my sales manager would do would almost take over the call. They would literally muscle in on and position themselves as the key decision maker / influencer within this organization.
Okay.
So if there's anything you need, come and talk to me, right? Now, as you can imagine, as a sales executive sitting in front of a customer who you've built a huge amount of rapport with and sometimes spent a lot of time trying to build credibility, when you have a senior manager come in and say, any problems, come and talk to me, completely gets depositioned in terms of me as a sales executive.
Yes.
So all of a sudden, the customer's now conditioned, if there's any problems with my relationship with this company or with Darren, I'll now go straight to the director because I know he'll get things done because he's told me he will. How does that position me? And so I found that when I became a leader, that's the last thing I did.
Yeah.
I did this a number of times. And I remember one time I sat in front of the CIO of KPMG and I had an account executive with me and the customer was asking questions to me, thinking that, well, I'm the sales manager. I therefore should have the answer. I kept deflecting. And And I caught up with this CIO a couple of days later just for a coffee, and he asked me the question, what were you doing that for? And he said, Ian, with the greatest amount of respect, we put people like, and her name was Nicole, we put Nicole in front of you because we trust her to represent not only you, but represent our brand really, really professionally. And so when I was coming in to meet with you with her, I was coming in as a coaching / development sort of perspective, not here to actually be the escalation point for you. So I didn't want to completely deposition her because she's your go-to person. So I had to reposition her. And what that meant was he then got a bit more conditioned in terms of, okay, well, I don't need to go to Darren because Darren's given Nicole some power to make decisions. So it's all good.
It's very enabling, very empowering.
Totally. See, what tends to happen in my experience is a lot of leaders don't do that because, again, it comes back to, I want to belong to something. I want to feel as if I'm adding value. And sometimes the feeling of value equates to, I've got to make decisions or at least be seen to be making decisions in front of my customer.
Yeah.
Versus, and sometimes it's really hard to do, taking a step back, and you've got to sometimes let your sales executive or the person you're with fall over. Literally fall over in front of you. But you're there to support them and help them up again. And that's the important bit.
What are the changes that you've seen? I mean, it's highly evident you've grown a lot through that, and like you've climbed the ranks of what it means to be in sales. You've seen it from a number of different angles.
Yeah.
But what is the major change that you've seen in the typical salesperson from 20 years ago to today? What's the change that you think you've noticed?
There's probably two.
Mm-hmm.
First one is scripting is no longer valid.
Good.
Scripting is out. And I had a training today actually with a group of people, and it was a sales training. I said, "You'd be pleased to know there is no scripts."
Yes.
So that's the first thing. So no scripting. And the second,
what do you think? I'll stop you there. What do you think that's a reflection of?
What do you think it's a reflection of?
Yes.
My personal belief is it's okay to have a script to follow in terms of a process or a structure.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're following a script verbatim, right, the problem is if you get a question you don't know how to answer and it's not on the script, you potentially can lose credibility very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
So it means that what I believe it is that selling today is more based on relationships, and being organic and leveraging off what your prospect / customer, potential customer is talking about, where they're coming from. Sometimes you can't script that.
Yeah.
You cannot script it. You need to know where they're at, why they're at where they're at, where they want to go from where they're at, and how you can help them to get from where they are, from where they're at to where they want to be.
Yeah.
And not stay where they're at.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Absolutely, it does.
So scripting is out. So salespeople have to be really organic. They have to be really flexible. They have to focus all of their attention on the prospect.
Can I just add, and that's so spot on, Darren, I'd love to add something there, is that salespeople now, if you speak to them in terms of the role that they're in, one of the things you'll often hear is, I never thought I'd find myself in sales, but now I love it. It's so good. It's so fun. It's all of this. And the language that you use was they don't have to use the scripts, etc. I think the language now has turned into not I have to be organic, but a lot of people like, I get to be organic. I'm in sales and I get to actually connect with people. I didn't realize this is what I actually got to do.
Yep.
As opposed to when it's all scripted and you got to hit targets. I mean, targets are always there, of course, but it's the more script necessities of it.
Correct.
People feel as though they have to do something.
Yeah.
Whereas now in the modern world, people are learning that sales is something you get to do in a way that people may not have realized that sales was actually all about all along.
It is probably one of, if not the oldest profession on the planet. I can probably think of one other profession that's probably just as old, but that's probably a subject for another topic, maybe not this group.
Okay.
But I mean, and we've talked a lot about this over the journey, that when you talk about sales and service, selling actually is the ultimate form of service.
Yes.
So if you look at the definition in the dictionary, and sales is something that says something like, it is a transaction, which is you have a good or a service in response to or in exchange for dollars. Yes. Right? Or credit, whatever it is, right? So that's the essence of what sales is. However, when you look at it, all it is you're having a conversation. You're finding out where somebody's at. Do they have a problem? And if they don't have a problem, all good. You're going to have an awesome conversation, and you've made a connection for a potential sale at some other point down the track, because you've always left a good taste in their mouth that this person's a good person, right? So that's the first thing. But the other thing is it's all based on the value that you can add. And you talk about it all the time. It's about finding the need, finding the problem, and focus on how you can help that person solve the problem. Once you've found that, and there's a match between what you've got to offer and the problem that person wants to solve, then you're actually doing that person or that company a complete disservice if you don't put the two together.
Could not agree more.
And that's it.
That's it.
And the art in doing that is not to sell something. It's to actually get to the position where you influence the person to make a good buying choice, and they feel really awesome about it.
Absolutely. Could not agree more. I love that, Darren.
Yeah.
What would be the second change you've noticed?
Second change, thank you. You've got an awesome memory. Love your work, mate. So the second one is, back when I started, there used to be scripts, but there used to be 2 killer questions that were asked in the 90s. And these were awesome questions. Now, you ready for this? You sitting down?
I am.
Question number 1. Tell me about your business. Oh, what a sensational question that was. You walk into a CIO or a CEO's office and ask that question, they would think, my God, this person is extraordinary. And back then, because there was no internet, right? Or certainly no Facebook, social media was sort of just a glint in somebody's eye. They would just verbally vomit all over you in terms of all the information you needed to know about that company. Quickly followed up by the second killer question, and this is even better. What keeps you awake at night?
Yes, yeah.
Now, they were all through all sales training of the 90s and probably into the early 2000s. Now, what we found, certainly in the companies I was at, that if you asked that question from probably 2002 onwards, you would be kicked out of that organization, never to ever be left to come back again, because you can no longer ask those sort of questions. Today, it's all about insight-based selling.
Yeah, education.
It has to be.
Yes.
You cannot go into any office of any organization to see anybody without at least an element of knowledge that you can use as an insight, as a basis for a conversation.
Yeah.
Yes, you can still get them to talk about elements of their business, right? And still ask really good questions, but you've got to bring insights into it first.
We love this. In the Tonal Persuasion Method live training, we talk about this in terms of leadership and what leadership actually equals, when sales is one of the finest forms of leadership. You're leading people through how to make a decision. And that is that leadership equals prediction plus execution. So you are becoming a leader when you can predict for someone what's going on for them in a way that they can't verbalize for themselves yet. You instantly become an authority when you can do that. You can't do it without the insights to give first, or the ability to see and read the patterns first.
Absolutely. And if you throw on top of that the Cialdini laws, 6 laws of influence, right? You've got to establish law of reciprocity first of all, right? That gets you in the door. Then you've got to establish the law of authority.
Yes.
The way you do that is to bring some authority into, I know something about this organization, and this is where it gets really cool. If you know something that is not publicly available, without it being controversial or commercial in confidence, if there's something that you know that you can bring to the table, all of a sudden your level of authority goes from there to there in the eyes of your potential customer. That gives you a lot more impetus to then have a really values-based conversation to then go through and actually influence that to a buying decision down the track.
Absolutely.
So they're the two key insights. So, and even today with things like LinkedIn, Facebook, I'm amazed, absolutely blown away by the number of people I train. And I ask them how they do their research about, before they go and see prospects and potential customers. And they say, look at the financial review and maybe Google their name and stuff like that. And I ask the question specifically, how many of you use LinkedIn? And in a typical room of 10 or 20 people, there's probably under half that would say, yes, I use LinkedIn. And I say, are you kidding? Now, as you know, I'm all over LinkedIn every single day. And I know statistically that all the decision makers in all the big companies around the globe use LinkedIn every single day. And it's something like 76+% of key decision makers across the globe use it every single day.
Astounding.
So if you're not using it, if you're not finding information out, then you're leaving huge amounts of money on the table.
That is. I'm writing a blog about that at the moment. I should release that soon, but it's basically about this fact that with all the technology, all the resources available to us in the modern world, still the brain is hooked into this idea of coming up with ideas and then not executing on them, right?
Yeah.
The resources are available to us now as salespeople and as business professionals in order to learn about our ideal buyer are sitting literally at the tips of our fingers as we type.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of people in business go to, pitch themselves, or they want to go and solve problems for a particular market, but don't do their research enough or at all.
Yeah.
And those resources are sitting right there.
They are. And just to add to that as well, there's probably two sides of it as well. Sometimes you can actually do no research. So you're going in completely unprepared, and that has a detrimental effect on your reputation and therefore your likelihood to get another appointment with that particular person, let alone get a sale. The other one is you can actually over-prepare. You can find too much information to the point where you don't know what type of questions to ask when you're sitting in front of somebody, because there's all this stuff that's going on inside your head.
Yes.
So you've got to try and find a medium point where it's just enough. And I always say this, that it's just enough to be dangerous, but not too much to come across as, a know-it-all, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So you've got to have a level of humility and ask really quality-based questions, curiosity-based questions, but use just enough information in order to give the customer/prospect an opportunity to actually build on it.
I love it. Fantastic, Darren. Thank you. Thanks so much. I mean, I know I spoke about this at the start, but you are a man with a lot of experience. It's clear that you know your stuff. If there's anyone that wants to follow more of your work, I know you release a lot of blog content and social media content. Where can we find most of your best stuff, please? Leave the other stuff.
My best stuff?
Yeah, your best stuff.
My very best stuff is on my website.
Yes.
Which is simply darrenmitchell.com.au.
Fantastic.
But if you want to look me up on LinkedIn, I'm more than happy to connect on LinkedIn. I also run a group on LinkedIn called the Australian Sales Leadership Network.
Yes.
So for anybody out there that's interested in just, and it's not on my content. In fact, most of it's curated content, but I try to find really good quality content from a sales and sales leadership perspective from around the world. And I post on that every single day. So we've probably got about building up to 300 plus members at the moment. So look me up on LinkedIn. More than happy to connect. And of course, the normal things like Facebook and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, thank you, Darren. I'm sure people would love to connect that way. And as always, anyone watching this, feel free to. You're a busy man. You just.
Oh,
yeah.
I was thinking as I'm sitting, wouldn't it be interesting if the phone rang?
We're almost made to the end. For those of you watching, make sure to like, comment, share. If there's any questions you have for myself or Darren, a man that has seen sales from many different aspects, please post them below. And it is our absolute pleasure to be able to help. Thank you very much, Darren.
Thanks, Darcy. Always good to talk to you, mate.
Cheers.
All the best.